Hey guys, welcome back to Main Street Living. Danielle, if it seems like your paycheck isn't stretching as far these days, okay, you're not alone. And a lot of people are turning to short-term loans to get all of the bills paid.
That's
Crazy, huh?
right. And many of those loans are coming from the people closest to us, our friends and family, which can come with a whole host of other issues. Kaben Clauson with Pigeon Loans has some insight on how to make these friends and family loans simple and stress-free. Welcome to the show, Kaben.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to see you.
No
So,
problem.
of course, money seems to be tighter and tighter with inflation still on the rise, and many Americans are borrowing and lending money with family and friends. What's causing this surge in this direction?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question. There's really been two key waves that have been affecting Americans. First, we had that pandemic, which put a lot of people into higher credit card debt. And it was kind of a hidden problem for a long time. Consumer debt was skyrocketing during the pandemic. And just as so many Americans, particularly young people, were recovering, now we're being hit by inflation that's, taking away, anywhere from 5 to 8% of someone's paycheck, depending on the state they live in. So what's happening is we're seeing people being pressured from both sides, right? We're seeing people that already have high debt, high student loan debt. And then we're also seeing a lot of people that don't have the traditional credit score in order to get other types of loans. And in this environment, going to friends and family is often your best option to get your funding, whether it's for a small business, to pay your rent or an emergency cost.
It's interesting that you say that, and I'll pause for a second because just this morning, a fellow friend of mine in the industry, they called me. I'm thinking that they needed, something, but he needed money. He said, "Hey, man, can you loan me this much money? But I'll get you back in 2 weeks." And the interesting thing is, Cape, millions of Americans are not able to get a traditional loan from a bank. So why are so many people left out of that credit system?
Yeah, it's really the 40 million invisible creditors. These are people there's 40 million Americans that either have a credit score that's so weak that they really can't get a rate outside of a payday lender. And it might surprise you guys, but a lot of people don't even have a credit score yet. A lot of younger Americans.
Wow.
And now, what's funny about that conversation you just had is that's kind of the same conversation myself and my co-founder had with our friends over the years and our family over the years. And that's really why we started to work into space. We realized that's a risky move. You send money to a friend, that's great. You can help them out. We want to help our friends. At the same time, that's one of the number one ways to ruin friendships. In fact, the number one reason friendships end is over money. Money is a huge pain for people, and it hurts both sides. If you're lending to people, you're worried about getting paid back. But also, if you're borrowing from people, you don't want to feel like a schmuck where someone's texting you every month asking you to pay them back. It can just get really awkward. And I certainly have experienced that through my life, both as a borrower and a lender. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
so to your point, borrowing from, lending to family and friends, usually a bad idea. Is that where you're at with this?
Well, it usually is. And that's why, what we're hoping with Pigeon Loans is what was really a bad idea before is now a better idea for people. And why was it such a bad idea before? I think inevitably and I've had these conversations, and I think most people watching, your show have had these conversations with family about money, with friends about money. Where it usually goes wrong is at the start. And where it goes wrong is you say, hey, you say to me, hey, Kaben, pay me back when you can. I trust you, and that's great. And everyone has the best intentions going in, but how are you going to manage that loan? Remember, guys, in fact, on Pigeon Loans right now, the average loan is 16 months is the payback period. So a lot of these loans are much more long-term. These are people that are, needing to pay rent, needing to repair their car, start a small business, pay for a home down payment, a lot of different use cases. And imagine a 16-month relationship where your friends having to text you once a month saying, hey, can you send me that $200, $300 you owe me? And that's always awkward for both parties. So that right away was like one thing that we thought we need to change this, because I think there's something very redeeming about helping people financially in the form of a loan. It's a great way to help a friend, but only if you can actually protect the relationship and manage the loan in a healthy way going forward.
Yeah, well, I personally feel like social media will destroy all of that friendship before anything else, because when they owe you money, you catch them posting new shoes on their post. I need you to pay me, okay? but let's talk a little bit about the Pigeon loan. So what inspired you to launch it?
Yeah, during the '08 financial crash, actually was the first time I was introduced to friends and family loans through my family. To be frank, my family really went through a very hard time financially. And I'll never forget seeing my father and mother have to do these loans with friends and family and how they were paying back for years. and the awkwardness and the friction, even keeping track of how much money was owed to who and when, and is there an interest rate, and where's the legality from a tax purposes around this. And it was just a huge problem. Then I got older, and as I borrowed from more people to start my first business, and then I came to the pandemic and was lending to friends, I realized, wow, this really sucks. We started looking online for solutions, saying, is there software that can manage this? We're living in 2022. It feels like if you're doing anything on on a napkin or on an Excel spreadsheet, it might be better to put it on a software platform. So my co-founder and I, Brian, who also experienced a lot of the same problems, we built a very basic prototype of this thing. We started sharing it with our circles, and it started to catch on. People are like, hey, if I'm going to lend with someone, I'd rather do it on Pigeon Loans than just risk, all the awkwardness of having it totally offline. And one interesting stat for you all, less than 1% of all the loans in the world are actually done digitally, which is astonishing in this era. Now, that number is really exemplified by what's going on in Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America. This is very common behavior worldwide. We're a unique beast here because we have this independent mentality where it's really hard to sometimes admit to people that you're not doing well financially. And I think it's really exciting. If we can bring that kind of helping your neighbor vibe to America, I think that can be a real game changer, like it has been for so many other parts of the world.
Makes sense.
Well, you brought up the awkwardness. So what are some tips that people should follow to avoid the embarrassment, the frustration, and all the other issues that come with borrowing and lending from the people we love?
That's a great question. The first comment I would say is if you're lending with someone, make sure your own house is in order first. We've seen stories of people who've lent when they really needed that money for their rent, for their child's school, for food, for things like that. Don't put yourself in a bad spot. If you're fortunate enough to help people, though, go in with a plan. Whether you use Pigeon Loans or use another product or do it on your own, make sure you talk about, hey, okay, we're doing this loan. How many months is it going to be? How much are you going to pay me back? And when are you going to pay me back? And how can we keep track of this? Being upfront about it too. Saying, hey, I don't want this to get in front of our relationship. Our friendship is more important. This family is more important than money. And remember, Bloomberg just came out with this study. 27 million Americans, nearly 27 million Americans borrowed from friends and family last year. That's up 7 million than the year before. And estimates say it could be as high as 40 million. So we're going to see a lot of Americans have to go through this. And planning ahead is the real key. And if people do that, I think this can actually be a really beneficial thing to their lives and not a pain.
Well, Kaben, you definitely dropped some jewels on us today. Really quick, tell us where viewers can find you to get more information.
Yeah, you can go to pigeonloans.com or pigeonloans.io to use our product. Pigeon Loans is an entirely free product. Our business model is built around bringing all these loans onto our platform. We don't charge any fees to our users. And how we're going to monetize is by bringing a big user base, and then eventually we can advertise other financial products. We think that's the most beneficial way, especially in a financial time when so many people are hurting. We don't want to add another fee to this, so the product's really easy to use.
Awesome.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on today, Kaben.
Thank you for having me. Great to be with you both.
All right, Quincy, now from creating loans to coming up, creating music in the classroom. That's next on Main Street Living.